My name is Florence Pugh, and the night I skipped my family's party to volunteer at a homeless shelter, my mom didn't just yell. She pulled a lever that froze my money and nearly cost me my job. She said I loved strangers more. Years later, strangers clapped anyway. If you've been through something similar, share your experience in the comments. Blankets were stacked on the folding table, and the bed list was taped beside them. The weather alert said the cold snap would hit Seattle by midnight, so every open spot mattered. My phone started buzzing. FaceTime. Mom. Decline. Buzz again. On the third ring, I answered, because Deborah treats silence like an invitation. Behind her was loud music and a crowd of relatives squeezing into someone's living room. "Florence, where are you?" "At the shelter. I'm on shift. I'll swing by after." "No, come now. Everyone's waiting to take pictures." "Tell them to take one without me." Her smile stayed. "You care more about strangers than family." A client at the desk cleared his throat, waiting for a blanket. I handed it over and kept my voice flat. "Mom, I'm not doing this right now." "Fine," she said. "Don't be late." The call ended. A text popped up from Marisol. "Warehouse closes in 20. Don't be late. They lock the gate exactly at 7. Clipboard under my arm, I headed for the front to grab the van keys. Deborah appeared at the curb like she'd been waiting for my feet to hit the lobby. She held a foil tray and a paper bag. Across the bag was a big sticker, "Family First." Her voice traveled. "I brought you dinner, since you're too busy saving the world to eat." A couple of guests turned their heads. A teenager waiting for a bed stared at the sticker, then at me. "Mom," I said, taking her elbow. "Outside." She let herself be guided, smiling at everyone as if this was her volunteer shift. "Not here," I said once we cleared the doorway. "Oh, so now you're embarrassed." Her voice dropped. "I already told them." "Told who?" Deborah blinked, then smoothed it over. "People. You know, the ones who still show up for family." "Stop." "Or what?" The sweetness vanished. "You'll choose them again?" Behind her, the hallway security feed flickered and went dark. A staffer glanced up and shrugged. "Old wiring," he said, like that explained anything. Deborah's eyes slid toward the breaker panel and back. "Go on. Be a hero." The tray felt warm through the foil. I carried it to the warming station and set it down. "Leave it here," I told her, pointing at the sticker, "with the people who are actually hungry." Marisol called my name from the desk. The logbook sat crooked, and today's page was creased like someone had flipped it fast. My watch read 6:40. The warehouse gate would close at 7. Coat on, keys in hand, I jogged to the van and swung behind the wheel. 2 blocks later, at the gas station, the card reader chirped. Declined. He looked at me like I'd tried to pay for gas with goodwill. The clerk tried again. Declined. My phone lit up with an email. "Your account security settings were changed." My thumb was already hitting redial as I ran back toward the van. After the card got declined, the warehouse run was dead. I coasted the van back to the shelter lot, praying the needle didn't hit empty at the same time my patience did. The email about my security settings sat open on my screen like a receipt I hadn't asked for. Marisol spotted me the second I walked in. She was holding a clipboard, which is basically her love language. "You get the load?" "Not happening." "You okay?" "Who manages the hallway security system?" That made her pause. "Why are you asking me that?" "Because it went offline when my mom was standing next to the panel." Marisol didn't gasp. She just nodded once, like she'd filed it under, "Of course." "Give me a minute," she said, "and don't pick fights." The fights found me anyway. My phone lit up with the family group chat. Deborah had posted a message long enough to qualify as a church bulletin. "She wouldn't come," she wrote. "She chose strangers over family. Please pray for her." Responses stacked fast. "Just apologize. Stop embarrassing your mother. Come home and be normal." A bed check volunteer asked where to put donated socks. I pointed at the bin and kept my phone face down. People still needed blankets, whether my relatives were disappointed or not. 10 minutes later, our program manager and HR walked up to the intake desk. Their smiles matched each other, which never happens for a good reason. "Florence, can we step over here?" the manager asked. Marisol moved with me, close enough to hear every word. HR held out a single sheet. "We received an anonymous complaint about donations intake," she said. "Process issues, documentation." "Show me." She angled it toward me without letting it leave her hand. The summary used phrases I'd heard my whole life. Attention-seeking behavior. Disrespect for established rules. Deborah's favorite insult dressed up as policy language. "This isn't from a client," I said. HR didn't blink. "We're not assigning blame," she replied, "but until we review, you'll step away from receiving and records." The manager added, "Effective immediately." Marisol's voice stayed level. "She's been on shift since noon. You're pulling her because someone typed an email?" "We have to protect the organization," the manager said. "From what?" I asked. "From risk," HR said, which is what people say when they don't want to name the person causing it. A form slid across the counter. "Sign to acknowledge you've been notified." Marisol leaned in. "Read it first." So I did, then signed the line that confirmed I'd seen it, not the part that agreed with it. As soon as they left, an unfamiliar number called. I answered, because ignoring calls had already cost enough. "Is this Florence Pugh?" a woman asked. "Yes." "This is Linda from St. Mark's. Deborah asked me to check on you." It wasn't concern. It was a wellness check with better manners. "I'm working," I said. "Oh," Linda replied, like she'd hoped for a different answer. "Your mother is just worried. She said you've been distant." "Deborah doesn't speak for me," I said. "If you need something from the shelter, call the main line." Silence. Then the line dropped. Marisol didn't ask for details. "Log it," she said. "Time, number, what she said." "I'm not making a crime board," I told her. "Fine," Marisol said. "Make a grocery list." Same thing. A maintenance tech showed up at Marisol's text, looked at the panel by the office, and shook his head. "It didn't glitch," he said. "Someone shut the feed off here. Manual. Around the time your mom was out front." "Can you tell who?" Marisol asked. "Not from that," he said. "But it wasn't random." HR came back with a calendar invite printed on paper, like we were in 2004. "Fact-finding meeting," she said. "Friday, 9 a.m. The manager added, "If we can't clear this, we'll have to notify partners." My phone chimed with the same invite. Marisol watched, still not saying a word. Fingers opened the Notes app and typed, "Linda, St. Mark's, 7:18 p.m. Then another line for the complaint, and another for the panel, and the cursor kept blinking while footsteps stopped behind me. Marisol's Notes app was still open on the counter when my shift finally ended. She slid a sticky note toward me with 2 items, bank and email. Then she tapped her pen once. "Start there," she said. "Tonight?" "Before Friday," Marisol replied. At home, the first thing that worked was my laptop. The bank app wouldn't let me in, so I used the old website and the security questions Deborah wrote on every form when I was 19. A banner flashed. Profile updated, and that was new. The Authorized Users tab was also new, at least to me. One name sat there like it paid rent. Deborah Pugh. Her phone number was listed as a contact for verification. Her email was listed as a recovery option. I hadn't typed any of that. I called the bank's fraud line and got placed on hold behind a recording telling me to breathe. When an actual person picked up, she sounded tired in a way that meant she'd heard worse. "Are you the primary account holder?" she asked. "Yes." "Do you recognize Deborah Pugh as an authorized user?" "I recognize her as my mother." "That's not the question." "No, I do not recognize that authorization." The rep told me she could lock changes, start a review, and mail copies of the paperwork. She also said the last security update came from a device in my mother's zip code. She didn't say Deborah did it. She didn't have to. While I waited for the confirmation email, another message arrived first from Deborah. No greeting, just a link to a family dinner invite and a line of text. "Tomorrow, 7. You'll apologize, and you're done with that shelter thing." I typed one word. "Why?" Deborah answered immediately. "Because I'm worried about you, and because I'm not sure you'll be okay on Friday if you keep acting like this." Marisol had told me not to pick fights. She hadn't said anything about driving. The next stop was my mom's house in West Seattle, the place where my mail still mysteriously showed up whenever I forgot to change an address. Deborah opened the door before I knocked. A neighbor stood on the walkway holding a casserole dish like she'd been invited to witness something. My aunt was also there, sitting at the kitchen table with her purse on her lap. "Hi, sweetie," Deborah said, loud enough for the walkway. "I was just telling them you've been stressed." "Who's them?" "People who care," she said. "Show me the paperwork." She walked to a folder on the counter and flipped it open like a teacher grading late homework. Bank statements, old lease copies, a photocopy of my ID from when I was in college, all neatly labeled. She didn't look at me while she spoke. "You forget things," Deborah said. "You always have." "I don't forget," I said, pointing at her name on the authorization page. "I just didn't realize you kept me filed like a cabinet drawer." My aunt made a noise in her throat. Deborah's smile tightened. "I did it to help you." The neighbor shifted her casserole from one hand to the other. Deborah glanced at her, then back at me, as if checking whether her audience was still paying attention. A photo frame on the shelf held a family portrait from last Thanksgiving. Deborah's hand rested on the folder, possessive, like the paper was proof she'd done her job. "Cancel the shelter," Deborah said. "Come to dinner tomorrow. We'll fix this." "What's this?" I asked. "You." "I have a meeting Friday at 9, I said. "You already know that, don't you?" Deborah's eyes didn't move. "I told them you've been overworked," she said. "They need to protect themselves." That was as close to a confession as Deborah ever got. I took pictures of the authorization page, the contact information, the dates. Then the folder got snatched out of reach. "Don't steal from me," she said. "It's my name," I said. "You're being dramatic," my aunt added. Deborah pointed at the door. "Go cool off. We'll talk tomorrow." On sidewalk, HR called. More evidence came in. Friday at 9, get a lawyer. My thumb hit Marisol's number. Marisol picked up on the second ring. "Where are you?" she asked. "Parking lot," I said. "HR says more evidence. They told me to get a lawyer." "Don't go home," Marisol said. "Come here, now." I walked back through the front doors with my bag, expecting the chaos. Instead, the manager was waiting with HR and a sealed envelope. "Florence, we need your badge and keys," HR said. "For what?" "Administrative leave," the manager replied, "effective immediately." I held out the lanyard. HR took it like it was fragile. "Please collect your personal items. You can't access records or storage." Marisol stepped between us. "On what basis?" HR opened the envelope and read like she was practicing neutrality. Additional documentation was submitted overnight, concerns about donations handling and staff conduct. "Staff conduct," Marisol repeated. HR didn't look at her. An allegation that Florence is unstable and fixated on clients, creating a safety risk. "Show me the documentation," I said. "You'll receive a summary for the meeting," HR replied. "Friday at 9. A volunteer walked past and asked if I could cover intake. The manager answered before I could. "She's off the floor." The volunteer glanced at me, confused, then kept walking. I asked to grab my jacket from the back office. The manager escorted me. My shift calendar on the wall had a blank spot where my name used to be. Someone had already written another name in marker. At the desk, the donations logbook sat open. The page from the night Deborah showed up was torn out clean, not ripped. Marisol's jaw tightened. "That wasn't like that yesterday," she said. The maintenance tech came over with a tablet. "The hallway recording goes dark for 14 minutes, he said, "right in the window you mentioned." "Can you pull it back up?" Marisol asked. He shook his head. "It's gone. The system logged a manual shutdown." HR cleared her throat. "We're not discussing investigative details on site." "Convenient," Marisol said, then caught herself and lowered her voice. "Sorry, not helpful." The manager shifted, uncomfortable. "We've got funders watching," he said. "We can't look sloppy." My phone buzzed again. A bank alert. Account access changed. Then another from my property manager. "Please contact the office regarding your lease file." Marisol watched the screen. "They're moving fast," she said. HR held out a form with a line highlighted. "Sign acknowledging receipt. Your access has been disabled. Your schedule has been removed. I signed. The pen felt heavy, like it wanted to argue. HR tucked the form away and handed me a printed notice. You'll leave through the front. You're not to contact staff about this. Marisol leaned close. Don't say anything else, she whispered. Save it for Friday. Outside, 2 uniformed officers stood near the entrance. One had a notepad. Florence Pugh? The taller one asked. Yes. We got a call for a welfare check, he said. Someone reported concern you might harm yourself or others. Marisol's face went still. I'm at work, I said. We understand, the other officer replied. We just have to ask. Any weapons on you? Any plans to hurt yourself? No. Any substance use tonight? No. Who called? Marisol asked. We can't disclose that, the taller officer said. A woman from a nearby church group stood across the street, pretending to look at her phone, then walked away when she saw the uniforms. Marisol pulled me toward the side of the building where nobody lingered. Listen, she said, this isn't a fight, it's control. She grabbed my notebook and started writing a list. Lock your accounts, change recovery emails, request copies of every authorization, get the suspension notice in writing, ask IT for system logs in a formal request, and don't go to your mom's dinner. I already went to her house, I said. Marisol didn't flinch. Then don't go again. If she wants a scene, she'll get one, just not with you in it. My phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Marisol stopped writing and nodded at it. Answer, she said. I stepped away, the paper notice folded in my fist, and picked up while walking toward my car. That number belonged to an intake investigator with the city's Human Services Department. She introduced herself, asked if I was safe, then asked if I would be willing to send any documentation related to the anonymous complaint. I told her I would. She gave me an email address and a case number. By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear of her, but from the fact that Deborah had managed to drag government paperwork into my Tuesday night. Wednesday morning looked normal on the surface. Coffee, laptop, a pile of mail I'd ignored for days. My inbox had a calendar invite titled Administrative Leave, with my name spelled correctly, which somehow made it worse. The banking app still refused my login and suggested I try a recovery email I didn't recognize. In the mailbox downstairs, a folded sheet from the police read, Welfare check completed, like a receipt for a service I never ordered. On the kitchen table, my adult life was spread out in piles. Lease, paycheck stubs, insurance card, the folder I'd never bothered to lock. Every time a site asked for a backup email, I'd clicked the easiest option, which was usually my mom's old address because she kept things organized. It had felt like teamwork. Now it read like access. I called HR and asked for the suspension notice and the full complaint in writing. The reply was immediate. We'll provide summaries at the meeting. No attachments, no names, no details. Marisol called before I could dial her. Did you sleep? Not really. Good. You're going to be productive. She had already pulled what she could from the shelter systems. Not the hallway feed itself. Nothing was coming back. But the access logs around it. She read off times, usernames, and a device identifier connected to the anonymous complaint submission. It hits the network at 6:36 p.m., she said. Same window your mom was here with the tray. And it shows who? It shows a device, not a person, Marisol replied. But it's not yours, it's not mine, it's new. She also had a list of who could open the utility panel that controls the building systems, maintenance lead, shift manager, and whoever had been loaned a key card during a contractor visit the week before. The schedule showed no contractors that night. Someone wanted that feed down, Marisol said. I printed everything she sent, then printed the bank email about security changes, then printed the property manager message. A small forest died for my boundary issues. The civil attorney I found through a legal aid referral didn't offer comfort. He offered a checklist, which was better. Don't argue with her, he said after I explained Deborah. Arguing gives her more material. Document, report, then let the process do what it does. What about Friday, I asked. You attend, you bring your timeline, you ask for everything in writing, and you do not go alone. He warned me about the part nobody likes to say out loud. If you report identity misuse, it can affect family relationships. My family relationships are already a project with no funding, I said. He didn't laugh. After that call, I opened every account I could think of and changed recovery settings. Two-factor authentication went on. Passwords became nonsense strings. My phone number stayed mine. I called the bank again and asked for the original authorization documents. Those require a branch visit, the rep said. Fine. By noon, texts from my aunt and 2 cousins had shifted from prayer hands to threats, without ever using the word threat. Your mother is devastated. You're tearing the family apart. Please stop making this public. I didn't respond. Blocking felt like pulling weeds. Repetitive, unglamorous, necessary. At the branch, a receptionist asked me to sign in. My folder made a heavy thud on the counter. The banker skimmed the first page and lowered his voice. Ms. Pugh, if you sign this affidavit, we'll open a fraud investigation. That can involve law enforcement. My phone vibrated in my pocket again and again. I didn't check it. Where do I sign? I asked, and put the pen to paper as it kept buzzing. The banker slid a thin packet across the desk and tapped the top page. Your affidavit is in, he said. Next steps? Our fraud team contacts you, he replied. If you get any calls claiming to be us, don't trust the number. Use the one on your card. My phone vibrated again. A text from my property manager. We need you to come in today regarding your file. Another buzz followed, this time a voicemail notification from a blocked number. Deborah had figured out workarounds. Outside the branch, Marisol answered before the first ring finished. Tell me you signed, she said. Signed, I replied. Good. Now don't do anything that looks like a meltdown. She wants that. A courier envelope waited at my apartment door when I got back. Not mail, service papers. My name on the front, spelled like someone had copied it off a form. Temporary protection order. Hearing scheduled. Deborah listed herself as the petitioner. Marisol read the first page over speakerphone. She says you showed up at her house and threatened her, Marisol said. I asked for paperwork. She's building a record, Marisol replied. Not a fight, a file. The petition described me as erratic, fixated on strangers, unsafe to be around. It used the same phrases as the HR summary. Attention-seeking, disrespect for established rules. Deborah's voice translated into legal-sounding sentences. I called the number on the notice. The clerk didn't care about family dynamics. You can appear and contest, she said. Do I need a lawyer? You can represent yourself, she replied, like she'd watched that go badly all day. A legal aid office squeezed me in for a short consult. The attorney, a woman named Renee, didn't ask how it felt. She asked what Deborah had access to. Bank accounts, Renee said. She's listed as an authorized user, I answered. I didn't add her. Email recovery? Yes. Lease paperwork? She has copies. Renee nodded, then pulled up a checklist on her screen. This isn't about your mom being mad, she said. This is about leverage. If she can make you look unstable, she keeps control and you lose credibility. Control of what? I asked. Everything she touches, Renee replied. Money, housing, employment. And the moment you separate cleanly, those old permissions look like misuse. She asked for the dates of the bank security changes and the time the hallway system went dark at the shelter. Marisol had already texted me the log snippet. I read it out loud. Renee wrote fast. That's not spontaneous, she said. That's timed. My phone buzzed again. A cousin, the one who had told me she'd hear my side, had left a voicemail. Florence, just stop, she said. Aunt Deborah is scared. We all saw you that night. You were intense. Marisol made a small sound. Not agreement, recognition. They're lining up witnesses, she said. Renee looked up. Who's that? Someone in my family, I answered. Renee pointed her pen at the service papers. Your biggest risk is that this order limits contact, she said. If you violate it, even accidentally, she wins. I don't want to contact her, I said. Good, Renee replied. But you need documents from her house, right? That's the trap. Marisol texted. HR email. The shelter's HR department had forwarded an update with a new subject line. Meeting time changed. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., I read. Renee leaned closer. She's not just preparing a family story, she said. She's already told them who you are. Bank, landlord, your workplace, community contacts. She's moving in every lane at once. Marisol's voice hardened. That's what she meant when she said she told them, Marisol said. Renee gave me one more sheet. Bring this to the hearing, she said. Ask the judge to narrow it if possible. No blanket restrictions that block you from getting your own property. At the courthouse, the hallway was full of people clutching paper like it could keep them standing. Deborah wasn't there yet, but her handwriting was stamped and copied and official. A deputy called my name, then hers. Renee couldn't come with me, but she'd told me what to say and what not to. After the clerk handed me a stamped date for the hearing and a copy of the temporary order terms, the phone buzzed again. Another HR message. Another change. Fingers opened my laptop on the bench by the doors, and the first email to HR started drafting while my breathing still hadn't settled. The laptop balanced on my knees while I typed a timeline into an email to HR. 6:32 p.m., Deborah at the door. 6:36, anonymous complaint device on network. 6:40, my card declined. 6:44, security settings changed. Marisol forwarded the system logs. I attached everything and hit send before I could second-guess it. At 7:55 the next morning, Marisol met me outside the shelter admin offices with a binder and a second coffee. Say as little as possible, she said. That's my hobby. HR had booked a conference room and invited the program manager, a board liaison from our funder, and someone labeled compliance. A small recorder sat on the table for minutes. Nobody asked how I was doing. The manager started. Florence, we're here to review concerns raised about donations intake and staff behavior. Behavior? Marisol repeated. HR nodded. Allegations of instability. Also a claim you altered records. The compliance rep slid a printed packet toward me. Respond to each point. The packet said things like emotionally reactive and over-involved with clients. It also mentioned a missing log page. My name was everywhere, but my voice wasn't. May I submit documents, I asked? Yes, HR said. We'll mark them as exhibits. Binder opened. 3 labeled sections went onto the table. Exhibit A, I said. Bank documentation showing Deborah Pugh listed as an authorized user on my account, plus confirmation the account security change originated from her area code. The funder liaison raised her eyebrows. HR glanced down. Family arrangements are complicated. Not when they're unauthorized, Marisol said. Exhibit B, I continued. The shelter network log showing the anonymous complaint was submitted at 6:36 p.m. from a device not registered to staff during the exact window Deborah arrived with food. The manager leaned back. That could be coincidence. Exhibit C, Marisol added, sliding another page. Maintenance notes and access records showing the hallway feed was manually shut off at the electrical panel during that same window. No contractors scheduled. Compliance cleared his throat. You're suggesting your mother sabotaged operations. I'm suggesting someone with my personal information and a motive used the fastest levers, I said. HR looked toward the speakerphone at the end of the table. Our counsel is joining, she said. A man's voice came through. This appears speculative. You cannot prove who touched a panel or who used a device. My client's only concern has been Florence's welfare. Your client filed for a temporary order, Marisol said. That doesn't make her a safety expert. Florence also went to my client's home and acted aggressively, the voice replied. My phone buzzed. Another text from my aunt. The screen stayed down. HR folded her hands. Without direct attribution, we still have to address the missing log page and the complaint. I pulled out the voicemail transcription from my carrier, printed with date and time. Here's direct, I said. Deborah texted me and later left a message saying she wasn't sure I'd be okay on Friday if I didn't come home and quit. That was before HR moved this meeting up. Silence took a beat to land. Compliance asked, Do you have the original message? The phone slid across the table, open to the saved voicemail. He listened with one earbud, then looked at HR. "That's a conditional threat." The counsel voice tightened. "My client meant..." "She meant leverage," I said, keeping my tone flat. "Deborah told me strangers wouldn't feed me. Today, the bank is feeding me with receipts." Marisol didn't smile, but her shoulders dropped a fraction. The manager stared at the exhibits like they'd changed weight. "Given this," he said, "we're pausing the administrative leave pending investigation. This matter goes to our fraud and compliance channels, and we will cooperate with the city." HR slid a new letter across. "Return of access will be limited until system review," she said, "but your suspension is lifted as of now." I signed. Again, because that's what this week was. As we left, HR called after me. "Florence, do not contact Deborah. Also, expect follow-up from the bank." The hallway stairs felt steeper than usual. The binder pressed into my ribs. An unknown number flashed on my screen. Marisol hissed, "Answer." "Hello?" The unknown number on the stairs belonged to the bank's fraud investigator. "Ms. Pugh, this is Daniel Harris. I'm assigned to your report." "Okay. Do you confirm Deborah Pugh was not authorized to change your security settings?" "I do." "Send any paperwork you have, and don't contact her while we verify it." "Not a problem." He gave me a case number. Marisol walked me to the lot, binder under her arm like a shield. 2 days later, a certified letter showed up. The bank revoked Deborah's access, flagged the activity as identity misuse, and warned that future attempts could be reported. It was printed, dated, and signed. I scanned it and forwarded it to HR and the city investigator. The protection order hearing happened the next week. Deborah arrived early, dressed like she was headed to choir practice, my aunt beside her like a witness. When the judge asked why she filed, Deborah didn't hesitate. "She's unstable," she said. "She's obsessed with strangers. I feared for my safety." The judge looked at me. "Did you threaten her?" "No." "Did you go to her home?" "Yes, to ask for documents tied to my accounts." I handed over the bank letter and the voicemail transcript with the timestamp. The judge read, then asked Deborah a single question. "Did you have written permission to access her finances?" Deborah's pause answered for her. The order got narrowed to no contact in both directions. Before the clerk stamped it, the judge warned her, plain and slow, that personal information isn't a family asset. Outside the courthouse, my aunt tried to restart the script. "You've humiliated her." "Then she should stop using my name," I said, and kept walking. The fallout came in small scenes Deborah couldn't manage. At the grocery store near her church, 2 women from her Bible study stopped mid-conversation when she stepped up. One pushed her cart away like she'd remembered milk. Deborah smiled anyway, then turned her head when she spotted me. A month later, a friend forwarded me an email from the church committee. Deborah was stepping away from leadership due to concerns about boundaries. That sentence did more than any argument ever could, because it came from people she wanted to impress. Family split down the middle. One cousin texted, "I didn't know. I'm sorry." Another cousin texted, "You're destroying your mother." I didn't respond. Both numbers got the same treatment. Block. Marisol handled the practical parts with the calm of someone who's seen 1,000 disasters and doesn't romanticize any of them. Recovery emails changed. 2-factor went on everything. The lease moved to a new place under my name only. A coworker with a pickup helped haul boxes, saw my binder, and raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of paper," he said. "It's cheaper than therapy," Marisol replied, and shut the truck bed. Work didn't turn into a victory lap. It turned into procedures. The shelter tightened intake, added checks, and trained staff on what to do when someone weaponizes concern. The investigation cleared my name, and the complaint got routed where it belonged. I stayed. I moved up. Eventually, my job became building systems that didn't rely on anyone's intentions. Years passed without reconciliation. Calls from unknown numbers slowed. Mail stopped going to my mother's address. My life got simpler because fewer people had access to it. Then a committee emailed about our outreach program. Someone had nominated it, and they wanted me in Washington, D.C. for an awards ceremony. Marisol texted, "Don't forget who taught you to document everything." At the ceremony, the host read my name and summarized the work. Then he added a line that wasn't in the submission. She was once rejected by her own family for doing this. Somewhere in Seattle, Deborah heard that sentence and had nowhere to put it. The room stood and applauded anyway. Strangers, co-workers, donors, people who showed up because they believed the work mattered. At least they showed up on time. After I accepted the award and stepped off the platform, my phone vibrated with an unlisted call. The screen showed no name. My thumb hit block while my feet kept moving toward the backstage door.